Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked on Spartans listeners, thank you so much for tuning in to Locked on Spartans, your team in green and white 5 days a week here in the Locked on Podcast Network. Before going any further, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready for Super Bowl 57 with our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Enter that today to get started. Terms and conditions apply. There is a policy at the Locked On Network. It is an anti-drinking policy. You cannot drink when you're recording, but with that said here, that was prescribed to me by a doctor. So I have immunity there because how else am I supposed to watch this team without cracking open a cold beverage? Again, it could be anything. That could have been ginger ale. That could have been Sprite. We'll let your imagination wander. But my God, this team is... Oh man, I hate to say it, it's not fun anymore. I'm not really having that much fun, and let's explain why, even though I really don't have to. You're watching the same game I am, as Michigan State sees a 15-point lead evaporate to a 4-point deficit and then end in a 63-58 victory. Look, it was all fun and games, the last home game against Iowa, right? Because it's college basketball. You're going to have wonky nights. You're going to have odd nights, just like they did against Iowa. They had a lot going against them, but they still got a win out of the mud, as the kids call it. When it happens 2 home games in a row, and in between those 2 home games is a 16-point beatdown at Purdue, which, okay, that happens. Number 1 team on the road. And then a really, and I mean really ugly loss against Rutgers over the weekend. And then you chase it with... Again, by definition, a win, but that kind of a performance, and we are a far cry from the this team might make a late run in March conversations that we were having not too long ago. Okay, you know what? I'm sorry to be a negative Nancy to start a show about a win, but even going into this one, right? Like, this just felt like a game, and I told this to a few buddies beforehand, like... This feels like a game that is going to be a joyless victory. Like, even if they win, you're not going to feel much of anything. Yeah, you right the ship, but this is a game you should win. But if you lose, it's going to be DEFCON 2, maybe even DEFCON 1. And yes, Michigan State got the win. Not a whole lot to smile about, but let's look at the bright spots of this game here. All right, I'm going to try my best to celebrate a victory and stop being such a negative Nancy. 2 co-MVPs of the game, at least from my eyes, were Joey Hauser and Tyson Walker. Joey Hauser goes without saying, 20 points for the young man. This is after a pretty rough night at Madison Square Garden as well. He really had a solid performance as well and was very... crucial in Michigan State's 15-0 run to start the game. And let's just talk about that for a little bit, right? Because, well, Michigan State's MO the whole season has been, let's start the first 4 minutes as horrible as possible and then spend the rest of the first half trying to chase the deficit we have caused. Interesting topsy-turvy that Michigan State did this time around. They actually started the game incredible. And then, well, the last 16 minutes of the half just put up 16 points. Anyway, so Joey Hauser, very important in that early stretch there to, well, give MSU the boost that they needed out of the gate. And then Tyson Walker as well. Kid with 17 points on the night, 12 of them in the second half, and a lot of those after Michigan State saw their 9-point lead evaporate down to a 4-point deficit, and essentially the offense for the rest of the game was, Tyson, do something crazy. Go make a crazy finish at the rim. Go hit a nice little jumper. Because there wasn't really anything else going on. So those are your 2 MVPs of the game. AJ Hogard, 2 of 6 from the field, just 8 points. But I have to say, when you almost have a double-double in assists and rebounds, we have to give a nod to that as well, as he had 8 assists, 10 rebounds. And then beyond that, not a lot. Not a lot going on from everywhere else. And yeah, if it hasn't settled in by now, it's very apparent that this team is just who they are. Maybe a 7 seed if things work out well for them. Probably an 8 seed, maybe a 9 seed. I don't know. And if they lose any of these games that they should win down the stretch, well, you're squarely on the bubble. And that's what Michigan State was looking at today going into this game, is that, well, if they lost that game, that this wouldn't be things are getting a little dicey, we might be on the bubble. Like, no, that that would have put them squarely on the bubble had they lost that game today. But they didn't, despite all their inefficiencies, and I can't help but just to talk about them and just how depressing it is to watch. And this is a light that you guys have seen for a very long time. I'm starting to maybe, not just see the light, because I knew this team had glaring errors, but just becoming borderline nihilistic with this team. It is crazy how little you can get out of one position in the centers. And I know that this is a conversation we keep beating into the ground, but and again, these are great kids. These are really awesome kids. And by all accounts, on the court, well, okay, they try their best. And off the court, they're just upstanding gentlemen. They're great representatives of the university. But with that said, I don't think I've ever seen a 6'9" person play smaller in my entire life. Look, I know Madi Sissoko. God, I hope none of his friends and family are listening. I know that he came in to Michigan State as a raw prospect, and I thought that was just polishing off the finer things in the game of basketball. Not the finer things when it comes to like just basic motor skill and catching the ball. And that is just so mean to say about a kid. But when you have an opportunity to grab a wide open layup on the offensive glass and it just slips right through your arms for seemingly the 217th time of the season, and Maryland goes down to make it a one possession game, like, I'm sorry, that's kind of the story of the game. Or even Izzo out of the timeout, essentially saying late in the game, MSU up 3, hey, if this 50% free throw shooter gets the ball, foul him immediately, because I have evidence that supports my reason of not trusting anyone in the paint to get a stop down low. So that was actually a brilliant move by Izzo in a game where, of course, I don't think it was entirely brilliant from Izzo, letting Maryland go on a 12-0 run without even thinking of using a timeout was quite the move. And then, well, you see the coach on the other end, Kevin Willard, while Michigan State had their 6-0 run, calls a timeout immediately before the bleeding gets out of control. But back to the point of the front court, Jackson Kohler is due for a great career, but man, it has just been a season of $1 million footwork and dollar store finishing for him. It's crazy where you just see beautiful, almost ballerina-esque choreography in the paint. Wide open layup comes up, and now at this point, it's like watching the field goal kicker from the fall line up for anything within 30 yards. Like, it's not going to go in. So it's just so frustrating watching a power play almost the entire game, because, MSU is up 15-0 to start the game, and I'm not feeling like it's necessarily over at home against a Maryland team that's objectively awful on the road. But the deficiencies, I think this are what they are at this point. And you know what? Now I know what it is. It's that we have seen a big enough sample size now with Malik Hall back and healthy, along with Akins, who has been back for a while. But this is the core team. And yes, the Iowa game, I just chalked it up to college basketball. It's wonky. At least he got the win, but I don't know how a drastic turnaround happens before March, to the point where, to me, the goal is to do as well as you can the rest of the season to get a 6th seed, which is just not the standard that this team is usually at, but it's where we are right now. But even for a goal as little as that, just try to get a 6th seed. Based on everything I'm seeing, unless you have 4 guys have an incredible game, like I don't think that's attainable. I think that we're just kind of stuck in purgatory of an 8 seed, maybe even a 7 seed, but still, that's a second round game against a 1 seed or a 2 seed, and well, we've seen how that happens as of late. So, all right, hey, we got a lot of more positivity coming up on the other end here. I just need to talk your ear off about FanDuel Sportsbook. It is the #1 sportsbook in America, and to put some sugar on top of that claim, that's right, they're going to spice up Super Bowl 57 for you and everyone at your party, especially the people that are not signed up with FanDuel Sportsbook just yet, because, hey, when you sign up, you get your first bet at Super Bowl 57 sweat free. That's right. It's the no sweat first bet up to $3,000. If your bet loses, you're going to get all that money back in bonus bets because FanDuel cares about you. That's right. They want it to be fun this Sunday between the Chiefs and the Eagles. So go check out all their props that they have. They have everything from, just the money line, the spread, over under, but the player props and maybe even some halftime props as well if you get in on it early enough. Those are all yours to pick from. That's right. FanDuel Sportsbook, it's safe, it's fast, and you get paid easily and quickly thanks to Mr. FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Hop onto FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started and cash in on that no sweat first bet. Again, that's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions, oh yeah, they apply.